Welcome back to Narrative. Imagine this: a busy city street, a black woman trying to catch a taxi after a long day, only to be refused by the driver because of the color of her skin. But what he doesn't know is that this woman is someone powerful, someone whose identity could change everything in an instant. Stick around, because this story is about to take a turn that will leave you shocked and inspired. You won't want to miss how one man's prejudice leads to a moment of reckoning that challenges his beliefs and opens the door to understanding. If you believe in the power of transformation and the impact of empathy, don't forget to hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's dive into this unforgettable journey. It was a crisp autumn evening in downtown Maplewood, where the hustle and bustle of the city was in full swing. The streets were alive with the sound of chatter, laughter, and the constant honking of car horns. For many, it was just another Friday night, with plans for dinner, drinks, and time spent with friends. But for Naomi Carter, it was the beginning of a long journey home. Naomi was a 28-year-old black woman, recently promoted to a senior position at a prestigious marketing firm. She had worked hard to get where she was, overcoming countless obstacles in her professional journey. While her colleagues enjoyed the spotlight, she often found herself facing the harsh reality of prejudice and discrimination. But tonight was supposed to be different. She was celebrating with her coworkers after landing a significant client. As the evening wound down, Naomi found herself standing on a busy street corner, trying to hail a taxi. She was exhausted and just wanted to get home to unwind after a long week. She raised her arm, hoping to catch the attention of a passing cab. After a few moments, a taxi pulled over and she felt a rush of relief. As Naomi approached the car, she noticed the driver, a middle-aged white man named Richard, looking at her with a skeptical expression. He was scruffy, with a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes and an air of disinterest. When she reached the back door, Richard rolled down his window slightly. "Where to?" he asked curtly, his tone dismissive. Just downtown, please," Naomi replied, feeling a bit put off by his attitude. Richard frowned, glancing her over, then shook his head. "Nah, I'm not going that way. Find another cab." Stunned, Naomi stepped back, her heart racing. "But it's just a short ride. I'm not asking for anything special." "I said no," he replied, rolling up the window and driving off without a second thought. Naomi stood there, her cheeks burning with embarrassment and anger. It was not the first time she had faced rejection due to her race, but it never got easier. As she watched the taxi disappear into the night, she took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. Just as she began to feel defeated, another cab pulled up beside her. She hurried over, grateful for the opportunity to finally get home. As Naomi settled into the backseat of the next cab, she couldn't shake off the disappointment. "I'm so tired of this," she muttered to herself, staring out at the lights of the city. The driver, a friendly man in his 40s, glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "Everything all right?" he asked, sensing her frustration. "Yeah, just had a bad experience with another driver," Naomi replied, letting out a frustrated "See, some people really have no decency." The driver nodded sympathetically. "I hear you. People can be ignorant sometimes. Where are you headed?" "Just downtown, please. I had a long night celebrating with colleagues, and now I just want to get home." As they drove, Naomi chatted with the driver, who introduced himself as Sam. He was warm and engaging, and the conversation quickly shifted her mood. They talked about everything: work, family, and even their favorite restaurants in the city. For the first time that night, Naomi felt a sense of ease. Meanwhile, Richard, the taxi driver who had refused her, was still fuming over the incident. He had picked up a few more fares but couldn't shake the feeling that he had made a mistake. Little did he know, his evening was about to take an unexpected turn. As Naomi and Sam reached the downtown area, she received a call from her boss, Amanda. "Naomi, I'm so glad I caught you. How was the dinner? I heard we landed the Thompson account." "It was great, Amanda. Thanks for checking in," Naomi replied, her spirits lifting at the thought of the success they had achieved. "I'm on my way home now." Good. Listen, I need to talk to you about something important. Can you come by the office first? It's urgent." Naomi hesitated but agreed. "Sure, I'll be there in about 10 minutes." As she ended the call, she glanced at Sam in the front seat. "I need to stop by my office first. It shouldn't take long." "No problem," Sam replied, adjusting his route to head toward the firm's location. Unbeknownst to Naomi, as they drove, Richard was dropping off a fare just a few blocks away from her office. He was still angry about the rejection of the ride and the feeling of superiority that came from his preconceived notions. When Richard finished dropping off his passenger, he noticed a familiar cab pulling up to the office of Carter & Coben. He squinted, realizing it was the same black woman he had refused earlier. Confusion mixed with anger as he watched her get out of the cab, laughing and chatting with the driver, who looked remarkably cheerful. "What the hell?" Richard muttered under his breath. "Who does she think she is?" Feeling a surge of entitlement, Richard decided to confront them. He stormed over, his irritation boiling over. "Hey, what are you doing here? I thought you couldn't get a ride." Naomi turned, surprised by Richard's sudden appearance. "Excuse me," she said, confusion etched on her face. Richard crossed his arms, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did you finally find someone willing to give you a ride?" Sam stepped in, defensive of his passenger. "That's not cool, man. She deserves respect just like anyone else." Richard scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "Oh, please, I don't have to explain myself to you." Naomi took a step forward, her heart racing. "You don't know anything about me. I'm just trying to get to work like everyone else." Richard smirked, but his expression faltered when he noticed the name on the building behind her, Carter & Co. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. "Wait, you're not just anyone. You're Naomi Carter, the new marketing director, aren't you?" The moment hung heavy in the air. Naomi nodded slowly, her eyes narrowing. "Yes, I am. And what's your point?" Richard's bravado started to wane, and he felt a cold sweat bead at his brow. I didn't know. You didn't know?" Naomi repeated, her voice steady. "But that doesn't excuse your behavior. You let your prejudice blind you, and now you see who I am. But I'm still the same person, and I deserve the same respect as anyone else." Richard felt the weight of his actions crushing down on him as he realized the gravity of the situation. He had judged Naomi based on the color of her skin, and now, confronted with the reality of her identity, he was beginning to understand how wrong he had been. "I'm sorry," he stammered, genuine remorse creeping into his voice. "I didn't mean to." Naomi raised a hand to stop him. "Your apology means nothing unless you change your behavior. You need to reflect on how you treat others, regardless of their race or background." Sam nodded in agreement, stepping closer. "You have a choice to be better, man. Don't waste it." Richard looked from Naomi to Sam, feeling the weight of their disappointment. I will do better. I promise. I just need time to understand." With that, Naomi turned to Sam, offering him a grateful smile. "Thank you for being so supportive." "No problem," Sam replied. "I'm just glad I could help." As Naomi walked into the building, she felt a mix of anger and empowerment. She had faced discrimination head-on, and now she was taking control of her narrative. She resolved to use her position not just to succeed in her career, but to advocate for others who faced similar challenges.
In the weeks that followed, Richard found himself deeply reflecting on his actions. He couldn't shake the encounter with Naomi, nor the uncomfortable realization of how he had let his biases dictate his behavior. He sought out ways to learn and grow, attending diversity training sessions and community workshops that aimed to educate people about racism and privilege. Meanwhile, Naomi was busy excelling in her new position at Carter & Co. She took it upon herself to launch initiatives that promoted diversity and inclusion within the company. She reached out to local schools and community organizations, offering mentorship programs for young people of color interested in marketing and business. One day, she received an unexpected email from Richard. He was apologizing once more, but this time, he was also asking to meet. He expressed a desire to support her initiatives and learn more about the work she was doing. Naomi hesitated at first, but realized that change often required difficult conversations. She agreed to meet with him, believing that if Richard truly wanted to make amends, it could benefit not only him, but also the broader community. When Richard and Naomi met for coffee, the atmosphere was initially awkward. Richard fidgeted, clearly nervous about their conversation. But as they talked, the ice began to break. "Thank you for giving me a chance," Richard said, his tone earnest. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I want to be part of the change. I can't undo what I did, but I want to learn and help others understand that racism has no place in our community." Naomi appreciated his honesty, though she remained cautious. "It's going to take more than just words, Richard. It requires action. What specifically do you want to do to help?" Richard thought for a moment, clearly reflecting on the question. "I'd like to help sponsor events like the Unity in Millwood celebration. I think we need more open dialogues about race in our community. Maybe I can even bring some of my clients in to help fund workshops or programs aimed at educating others." Naomi nodded, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. "That could work. The more people involved, the bigger the impact. But you'll need to be prepared for uncomfortable conversations, and you must approach them with humility." "I understand," Richard replied, his resolve strengthening. "I want to learn from you. I'm ready to listen." Over the next few months, Richard became an active participant in Naomi's initiatives. He helped organize workshops at local schools, bringing in speakers and resources to address the importance of understanding and combating racial bias. At first, some community members were hesitant to accept him, but his willingness to engage in difficult conversations slowly began to change hearts and minds. As the community started to rally around the initiatives, Naomi and Richard found themselves working closely together. Their partnership became an example of how reconciliation could happen through open dialogue and a genuine desire for change. During one workshop, Richard stood in front of a crowd, sharing his own experience. "I've learned that I've been privileged in ways I never acknowledged," he admitted. "I used to think it didn't matter, but I now see how harmful that mindset can be. I hurt a child and a community without realizing the consequences. I want to change, and I hope you all will join me in this journey." The audience listened attentively, and for the first time, Richard felt the weight of his past actions lift as he saw nods of understanding and encouragement from those around him. Naomi stood by his side, proud of the transformation she was witnessing in him. As their initiatives gained traction, Naomi received an invitation to speak at a larger conference focused on diversity and inclusion in business. She was thrilled, and immediately invited Richard to join her as a co-speaker. Together, they could share their story and inspire others to bridge divides. At the conference, Naomi shared her journey and the challenges she faced, emphasizing the importance of representation and equity in the workplace. Richard followed, recounting how he had confronted his prejudices and the steps he had taken to change. The crowd responded positively, with many people expressing their gratitude for their vulnerability and honesty. As time went on, the impact of Naomi and Richard's work rippled through the community. Schools began implementing diversity education programs. Local businesses adopted fair hiring practices, and more people began to engage in conversations about race and privilege. Naomi and Richard became a dynamic duo, traveling to other towns to share their story and advocate for similar initiatives elsewhere. They collaborated with organizations focused on civil rights, often participating in panels and discussions to address systemic racism in their society. Their friendship deepened as they worked side by side, both learning from each other. Richard often sought Naomi's insight, and in turn, she challenged him to continue questioning his assumptions and expanding his understanding. One day, during a meeting about their upcoming initiatives, Richard looked at Naomi with a smile. "I never imagined my life would change so drastically because of one encounter. You've taught me more than I could have ever learned on my own." Naomi smiled back, her heart warmed by his words. "And you've shown me that people can change if they're willing to put in the effort. It's about growth and understanding." As their work progressed, the local community began to recognize the positive changes happening. A few months later, the town council awarded Naomi and Richard with a special commendation for their efforts in fostering inclusivity and understanding in Maplewood. The award ceremony was held at the town hall, and both were invited to speak about their journey. As they stood in front of the audience, Marcus, Jameer, and many other community members were in attendance, proudly supporting their efforts. Naomi took a deep breath before speaking. "Thank you all for believing in this mission of unity," she began, her voice strong. "It hasn't been an easy journey, but when we come together, when we share our stories, and when we listen to one another, we create a better future for everyone." Richard added, "I stand here today because I learned that it's never too late to change. We all have the power to influence others positively, and it's our responsibility to do so. Let's continue this work together and strive for a community where everyone feels valued." The applause that followed filled the room, a testament to the unity and understanding they had fostered within their town. In the following years, Naomi and Richard's initiatives expanded even further. They collaborated with neighboring towns, creating a network of communities dedicated to promoting inclusivity and diversity. Schools integrated their workshops into their curriculums, and the community saw a decrease in racial tensions and an increase in camaraderie. Jameer, now a young adult, became actively involved in his community as well. Inspired by his father and Naomi's work, he pursued a degree in social justice and advocacy, hoping to contribute to the ongoing fight for equality. He often joined Naomi and Richard in their efforts, sharing his own experiences and bringing a fresh perspective to the table. As the years went by, the bond between Naomi and Richard grew stronger, built on mutual respect and a shared vision for a better world. They often reflected on that fateful day when a simple refusal had led to profound change, not just for them, but for an entire community. One evening, as the sun set over Maplewood, Richard stood at the town square, watching families come together for another community event focused on diversity. He couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. He had come so far from that initial refusal at the barbershop, and he knew he had changed not just as a person, but as a part of a larger movement. Naomi joined him, and they shared a knowing smile, grateful for how far they had both come. They had turned a moment of prejudice into a catalyst for positive change, proving that understanding and kindness could triumph over ignorance. As they looked out over the crowd, Jameer approached them, excited about the activities planned for the evening. Richard placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're part of this change too, Jameer. Never underestimate the impact you can have on others." With renewed determination, Jameer nodded. "I want to keep making a difference, just like you both did for me." Together, they embraced the future, knowing that their work was far from over. They had created a legacy of understanding and compassion, a legacy that would continue to inspire generations to come. In the heart of Maplewood, a community united in diversity stood stronger than ever, a testament to the belief that every act of kindness could spark a change, and every individual had the power to make a difference. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more exciting content just like this. We have plenty of inspiring stories lined up that you won't want to miss. If you found this story meaningful, share it with your friends to spread the message of kindness and understanding. Together, we can create a community that values empathy and change. See you in the next video.